The Celtic invasion of the Balkans, a dark chapter of blood and iron. The year 279 BC marks one of the most harrowing episodes in the history of the ancient Balkans, the Celtic invasion. This event was a crucible of chaos, driven by greed, desperation, and a relentless thirst for conquest. The Celtic tribes, known for their ferocity and savagery, descended upon the Balkan territories, leaving a trail of death, destruction, and desolation in their wake. The Celts, a collection of warrior tribes originating in Central Europe, had long been a dominant force across the European landscape. By the 3rd century BC, their territory stretched from the British Isles to the Danube River, their influence marked by advanced metallurgy, fierce warrior culture, and a penchant for raiding neighboring lands. Driven by population pressures, internal conflicts, and a hunger for wealth, these tribes began expanding southward, eyeing the rich lands of the Balkans and Greece. For centuries, the Celts had maintained a fearsome reputation. Their warriors, painted and tattooed with intricate designs, were said to charge into battle with wild cries and fearsome displays of strength. But their culture was not solely martial. The Celts also had a deep connection to their spiritual beliefs, often performing brutal sacrifices to appease their gods. The Balkans in the 3rd century BC were a fragmented region, home to diverse tribes and fledgling city-states. Thracians, Illyrians, Macedonians, and Greek colonies coexisted in a precarious balance of power. The death of Alexander the Great in 323 BC had left the region destabilized, as his successors, the Diadochi, fought over his shattered empire. The Celts first began probing into the Balkans in the late 4th century BC. By 335 BC, Alexander the Great had encountered Celtic emissaries during his campaigns, though no major conflicts occurred. However, the Celts' southward incursions became increasingly aggressive in the ensuing decades, culminating in a full-scale invasion by 279 BC. The invasion was spearheaded by a coalition of 3 Celtic leaders, Brennus, Asicorius, and Cerethrius. They commanded a vast horde, numbering possibly 85,000 warriors, alongside women, children, and elders who followed the army. This was not merely a raiding party, but a migration, an unstoppable tide of humanity surging toward the wealthier south. The Celts struck first at the Illyrians and Thracians, overwhelming them with sheer numbers and ferocity. These initial campaigns were characterized by extreme brutality. Celtic warriors sacked villages, slaughtered men, enslaved women and children, and desecrated sacred sites. Their goal was twofold: to establish dominance and to instill terror in their adversaries. The most infamous episode of the invasion was the assault on the sacred city of Delphi, home to the oracle and one of the most revered sanctuaries in the Greek world. Brennus, the dominant leader among the Celts, believed that Delphi's treasures would make his people rich beyond their wildest dreams. By late 279 BC, his army had crossed into Greece and set its sights on the city. The Greeks, despite their divisions, rallied to defend Delphi. A coalition of Aetolians, Athenians, and Boeotians took up arms against the Celts, yet the gods themselves seemed to intervene on behalf of Delphi. Ancient accounts tell of a sudden and violent storm that struck the Celtic army during the siege, accompanied by avalanches and eerie visions of divine retribution. The Celts, already suffering from attrition and poor morale, were thrown into disarray. Greek defenders seized the opportunity to counterattack, driving Brennus and his forces into a desperate retreat. Brennus, gravely wounded and overcome with guilt, is said to have taken his own life rather than face the shame of defeat. The remnants of the Celtic horde, leaderless and disheartened, fled northward, pursued by vengeful Greek and Balkan forces. Many were slaughtered along the way, others scattered into the mountains, disappearing into obscurity. The invasion had failed, but its impact was profound. For the Balkans, the Celtic invasion left a lasting scar. Entire regions were depopulated, their cities and villages razed. Sacred sites lay desecrated, and the memory of the Celt savagery haunted the survivors for generations. Yet the invasion also marked the beginning of a new cultural synthesis. Some Celtic tribes settled in the Balkans, intermingling with the local populations and contributing to the region's complex cultural mosaic. Brennus remains a shadowy figure in history, his name synonymous with both ambition and hubris. His gamble to plunder Delphi ended in failure, yet his audacity continues to intrigue historians. Was he a mere raider, driven by greed, or a visionary leader seeking to carve out a new homeland for his people? The answer is lost to history, buried under the ashes of his campaign. The Celtic invasion of the Balkans is a grim reminder of the fragility of civilization. The Celts exploited the region's divisions, demonstrating how internal discord can invite external catastrophe. The invasion also underscored the sheer brutality of ancient warfare, where survival often came at the expense of humanity. Yet even in the darkness, there were glimmers of resilience. The Greeks' defense of Delphi and the eventual expulsion of the Celts showed the enduring power of unity and faith. The Balkans, bloodied but unbroken, would rise again, forging new alliances and identities in the crucible of conflict. The Celtic invasion of 279 BC was a dark chapter in the history of the Balkans, etched in blood and iron. It was a time of chaos where the clash of cultures and the ambitions of men left scars that would linger for centuries. Yet it was also a turning point, a moment when the peoples of the Balkans confronted their shared vulnerabilities and began to forge a collective resilience. In the shadow of this invasion, the Balkans entered a new era, shaped by the memories of devastation and the hope of renewal. The Celts, for all their ferocity, became part of the region's rich tapestry, their legacy a testament to the enduring interplay of destruction and creation in human history.